we're going to go over a question that we had first. For you guys that wanted review, I can stay a little bit after the review. So the first question that came up was the last one. So write a program using a while loop that defines an integer and prints out all factors of that integer. For example, if my integer was 6, the program should print out 1, 2, and 3. So let's make a program. So when you class go to call it fat. Okay. So if we look at the problem,
Shouldn't have 12. Shouldn't have 12.
if your integer was 6, then it should print out 1, 2, and 3, right? Yeah.
Wait, that's 6.
Well, do you count 6 as a factor of itself? Yeah, you can print out 6.
Yeah.
So then you print out 6. So let's add it. Okay, so we want to use a while loop, so let's get that started. So define a thing, call it right, and then we can start it at 1 if you want to get it. So if your integer was 6, so let's make an int equals 6. And let's have a while loop, while is less than or equal to 6. Less than or equal to because 6 is a
value.
Yeah. You're using less than or equal to because you want 6 times the factor of itself. So, and then you do if value, and then your modulus operator, right? Increment. And then if that's equal to 0, then you want a system dot out dot okay. You want value, you want increment plus space. Yeah, does that make sense? Okay, so run this program. Why isn't it working? Is someone tell me? Anybody?
It's the increment of values.
Yeah, so we're not actually incrementing increment, so quota right here.
Increment plus.
Make sense? So if you guys want to copy this down, go ahead and just do it now real fast. Other than that, is everyone okay with while loops? Do you guys kind of understand how they work? Okay, so let's go to a slightly more like complicated example. So, okay. So you can also nest your statement, for example. So let me show you an example. Okay, let's say I wanted to see if let's say if I wanted to see if my grade was an A, and if my grade was an A, I wanted to see if I had any work to do. And if I have no work to do and my grade is an A, then I can play a video game or something, right? So how do we write a program to do that? You could either have an AND statement, right? So you could have int grade equals 96, Boolean work to do equals false. And then you could say if grade equals 96 and work to do equals false. System that make sense? Yeah, correct. So since our grade is, wait, I did that wrong. If your grade is above a 90, right, because you want an A. So you can play a video game because your grade is above your 90 and you have no work to do. Let's say I change this to a 91. That would be fine. If I change this to true, that would not work. Yeah, see, it doesn't print anything out. If we wanted to cover that case, we would do an else statement, say no. And if we try this, we print out no. Makes sense, right? That's just your else statement, so it catches anything that doesn't go within your if. But we can do this if statement without using an AND operator. So what we would do is we would do if grade greater than 90, and you have your block here, right? And inside your block, you can have another if statement and say work to do equals false. And then you would print out system.out.println. Okay? So if I run this, nothing's going to happen. But if I change this to false, you can play a video game, right? So let's say I didn't put this to true. Can anyone tell me where my else statement would have to go in order to catch it successfully? Yeah.
Is it after if work to do equals false?
If work to do equals false. Okay. So you want to have an else statement here.
No, before system out.
You want it inside.
Yeah.
You can't define it inside. Your else has to go outside your if block, right?
Oh yeah. So after
You want it after? Okay, let's try that. So let's say I had. Else, and then I do system. Okay, you do not work on it? Okay, what if I change this to false, or what if I kept this at true, but what if I change this to a 89? Why does it not work on it?
Oh, because it's the else is within the if block. The if block grade is greater than 90.
Yeah.
So, and the grade is 89.
So how would you successfully make it so that it catches both conditions? What could you do?
You include another else statement outside.
Yeah, so else. Make sense? So this will catch all cases in which the int is less than 90 or your grade, or your, if you have work to do, is false, or if it's true. That make sense? Okay, so you can do more with nesting than just if statements. You can also, so we just learned about while loops, right? You can also nest your while loops. So let's make a program that fits out the.
So I did the grade is equal to 91. And I did everything else the same way you did, but in 13. Yeah.
Yeah, if your grade is above. Your grade is above. If your grade is false, then it will. Okay, so I want to make a program that prints out 1, and then 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Does anyone want to outline an algorithm for me to be able to do this? Or does anyone want to try? We just talked about nesting, right? So you're going to have to put a while loop inside of a while loop. So how would you do that? No? Can you do that? Okay. So let's say you have your first integer, right? This is your first iteration of your loop. Let's say you have an int. That's how long you want your thing to be, right? So we want, let's say, length. We want it to be 5 times long, right? 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5. What else do we need to know in order to be able to do this? We need to know the current place that we're at, right? In place. Okay, so let's design the basic algorithm that we're going to use before we actually do this. So we want a while loop that goes through until it reaches 5, right? So that gets rid of that. It's easy for us to do that, right? You just have a while loop. While place less than or equal to 5. Then you'd say system out right? So that'll give you this output. So how do I make it so that the second one will come here? We have this variable already, right?
Wait,
Yeah.
didn't, where's the plus plus?
Really?
We're printing 5 ones.
Oh, no, this program right here would just go and print lots of ones, forever. Right? So if we want to bound it to only 5 ones, we would just say, we would have a separate variable instead of length. We would call it like count. Instead of equal to 0, right? And instead of here, we change this to count. Count plus plus here. Make sense? Yeah?
What is that count plus plus?
This statement is equal to saying count equals count plus 1. These two statements are the same thing. Okay? Okay. But that's not what we want in our program. What we want is, we want the first iteration to be 2, and then we want the next to be 3, and then we want 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So, what do you notice about this? It goes up by 1 every single time, right? So it makes sense if we have something to increment the value as it goes up, as it goes down, right? Okay. So as we have a while loop over here, what's going on, right? And yeah, log count is less than or equal to 5 because we have 5 rows. We have a separate counter, and we said, then we have a third integer called, I don't know what you call it, length. Length equals 1. Right? So yeah. And then inside here, so I said you can nest while loops, right? So that's try nesting a while loop. So you say while, and you have your length is equal to 1, right? And you have your place within each column, and your length is the length of each column, right? So you say while place less than or equal to length. You would system out minute. What would you print? What would you print in this case? Place. Place. And then you want a space, so you do plus and then straight and then a space again. That gets you just your integer and then a space after it. And then what do you have to do to your place? Because your place, we already defined that this length would be the length of the column in each thing, right? So, what would you do now? You increment it. So your place plus plus. So now you have that is going to be going like that. It's going to go across each row every time, right? So that's all we want this while loop to do. That's all we assign this while loop to do, to go across a column, right? So after this while loop is done, what happens to the behavior? Let's say we're in this column, right? We have places equal to 1 here, so we print out 1. Then we increment place is equal to 2, so we print out 2. Then we increment place, so it's equal to 3. Then we print out 3, right? What do you want after? So this is 3 now. What do you want after that? Like, you don't want it to go to 4 here, right? So what do you have to do to place after this while loop is done executing? It goes from 1, 2, 3 back to 1. So what do we do to place? Place is at 3 right now.
It's equal to 1.
Yeah, you set place back equal to 1 because you did it start back at the beginning, right? So you say place equals 1. Make sense? Okay. So now let's get this length thing actually working. We just assume that it would work for this, right? So length is so you have place that goes across each column, and then you want the length of each column increment, right? So you set your length equal to 1 initially, so let's increment our length here. So each time the length is going to go up greater. So this while loop, the next time it executes, is going to go, but the length is 1 greater than it was last time, right? It's going to go up to 5. Then we end it. So now someone tell me, do we need this while loop? Or sorry, do you need this variable? Do you need count? Count is useless, right? You need count. What do we replace count with? Length. Does that make sense? Does this program make sense?
So what would like a while loop, like how do you explain it?
What?
Like a while loop and while loop, like how do you explain it?
It's called a nested while loop. So let's say I have while. Does this come in the camera? While condition 1. So let's say you have your code here, right? And then you have another while. Condition 2. You have more code here. So in the first execution of this while loop starts executing, right? And it goes through until it's told to stop. And after it's told to stop, it sees that this while loop, it finishes this while loop, gets out of this block, right? And it has some more stuff to do, so then it continues this. After this line of code, it finishes this while loop, and it goes to the second iteration of this while loop. And then it does this entire thing all over again, and then the third of this, and it goes in a loop until this thing is told to be done. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay. So let's try writing this in input. See if it works.
Like this.
Okay, by show of hands, who thinks this will work? Nobody thinks it'll work? Okay, let's see. Yes. What's inside your first box?
Wait, oh no, what question?
Yeah, what's up?
Wait, why did you define place and length twice?
What do you mean?
Because you have like, I mean, place equals 1, and then up there you have in place equals 1.
Alright, I'll show you in code. Watch. Let's wait for this. Okay, in place equals 1. You can't see. Okay. In length equals 1. And we start our first while loop, right? So while length less than or equal to 5. And then we have a second while loop, while place less than or equal to length. And then we say place. And then we can place.
That's just pretty.
Oh yeah. Okay, sorry, you're right. I was shy.
We can plan and more right there.
Yes. Okay. Okay. And then we increment place, right? And then after this we set place equal to 1. And then we increment length. Right. Let's try it. Wait, so do you guys think this will work or not? By show of hands. Why are they printing all on the line?
Mine's pretty like all different rows.
In different rows? Did you use system.out.print or system.out.print line?
It's all print line.
Print line adds a new line, so where would we want to add a new line in order to get the column? Where in the program? Bigger loop, right? So to get just a new line, we just do that. Right. Does that make sense? Does everyone understand how we wrote this code? If there's any doubt, like, let me know, otherwise you'll get lost later. Okay, so I'm gonna try a question. Why are we defining this twice? Let's say I set this equal to 2. What happened then? You see what's happening over?
Yeah.
So it starts at 2 and then it goes to 2, 3.
So to repeat the one.